Hi everyone, class 2 video here. We're going to talk about some piping, some fitting allowance, and threaded pipe and copper pipe. I think you've done a little bit of this in the shop, so I'm hoping it's a pretty quick review. I just want to make sure we have our terms right. We have end to end and we have center to center. End to end is always shorter than your center to center. So end to end is the length of this pipe. Center to center measurement is from the center of one fitting to the center of the other fitting. So your center to center measurement is always longer. Your end to end is what you cut your pipe at. Okay? You've also been given out in the shop a data number 5 with your fitting allowances. You can see mine is blown up because I'm old and can't see. But everyone should have one of these, and in your folders this week, I have one, and if you need extras, we'll have them. I have a clown trying to get in the room here and distract me. Okay, so let's say that we have this pipe here is 10 inches center to center, threaded pipe, and it has a 90 on this end and a 90 on this end. So when we say center to center, and I know my drawings aren't great, it's from the center of this pipe, center of this fitting to the center of this fitting is 10 inches, right? We have to find out what the end-to-end measurement is. We're working with 3/4 inch pipe. So this is where this little baby comes in handy. Here, look at it. Can you zoom in? We have 3/4 inch pipe, right? And look, our measurement is 1 3/8 inches. Our threading measurement, which is the B, is 1/2 inch. Now this is a little confusing, and whatever works for you to figure out your total fitting allowance will be the way you have to do it. So you can do it this way: 2 times 1 3/8 minus 2 times 1/2, and we get 1 3/4 inches. I do it this way: I do 1 3/8 plus 1 3/8, right? Because we have a 90 on each end. And then I take 1 inch off, which is a 1/2 inch for each end of the threading. And I get 1 3/4 inches as my total fitting allowance. Some of you like to do each end, one end at a time, I guess. 1 3/8 minus 1/2, would be for this end. And 1 3/8 minus 1/2 would be for this end. We get a total fitting allowance of 1 3/4. Hard work's done now. We just take our center to center measurement and we subtract 1 3/4, and we get 8 1/4 inch end to end. So you cut your pipe at 8 1/4 inches, you put your pretty little fittings on, and it should measure back. I know this isn't to scale, but 10 inches center to center. The center of that fitting to the center of that one. Okay? Now, you've dealt with copper pipe as well, right? So in this example here, we have 10 inches center to center, copper pipe. This time we have a 45 fitting on this end and a 90 fitting on this end, right? So our center to center, 10 inches. We have to determine end to end. So again, I lost it already, but we look at our pretty little fitting allowance sheet, and we look up 3/4 inch copper, and you'll go across the chart, and it should say G measurement, and fitting allowance for a 90 is 1/2 inch, fitting allowance for a 45 is a 1/4 inch. Add these two together, we get 3/4. That's our total fitting allowance. Subtract it from 10, 10 minus 3/4, 9 1/4, right? Remember, when you're dealing with copper pipe, there's no threading allowance. So you just take that fitting allowance, you subtract it off your center to center, and you get end to end. So what I want you to try to keep in your brain, which is hard to do, your end to end measurement is always shorter than that center to center. Okay? Pause it. Alright, so we're going to keep going here. I got a few new props up for us to look at. And we have to remember something from last semester. I know that seems like years ago. We worked with a constant called 1.414. And we can only use this number when we're working with 45-degree angles. So right now we are working with 45-degree angles, and we will be using this 1.414. Before we do that though, I want to make sure we know what the words mean when we read them. So if you were running vertical pipes, so your pipes were going like this, right? This measurement here is called the offset. And the offset is the distance between the pipes. This measurement here is called the rise, okay? I know my triangles aren't to scale, but this measurement from here to here, and this measurement from here to here has to be the same. And when we're looking for this one, when we have the 45 degrees going on, take this number or that number, times it by 1.414 to get the travel or diagonal. Now you will be looking at some piping diagrams. It's not going to say travel or diagonal, it's going to say pipe K or pipe L. Pretty sure Mark's already handed out a couple of those in the shop. When we're dealing with horizontal pipes, that's if our pipes are going this way, then this here is the offset, because that's the distance between the pipes. This here is our run, and again, this is our travel or diagonal, but it will be identified as a pipe K or L or whatever it is. So take this dimension, times it by 1.414, and that gives us a center to center measurement, right? We now know, because we're so smart, how to get that center to center measurement to end measurement, right? You can use your pretty little fitting allowance, depending on what size pipe you have, and away you go. So now, moving up the food chain, up the ladder, we're going to put it all together. We're going to use our 1.414, and we're going to find some end-to-end measurements. In your folder this week, the first thing that needs to be handed in is a fitting allowance exercise. It says at the top, to be handed in. Okay, and again, my drawings aren't great, but here it is. So, offset, we have a 45 fitting here, and a 45 fitting here, and we're calling this pipe K. Right, so you're gonna get a chart that has all this, but you'll be given these two numbers. You'll be given the offset, and you'll be given the pipe size. Okay, so we need to figure out center to center, end to end for threaded, end to end for copper. Don't be overwhelmed, you can do it. Step one, we're going to take our 8 1/4, you can make it a decimal if you want, whatever you want to do, times it by 1.414, and we get 11.665. We're going to take this decimal, 2 decimal places, which you know how to do, and we're going to get it to a 1/16 of an inch, which you know how to do, right? We end up here with 11/16. So our center to center measurement is 11 and 11/16. This part of your chart is filled in. Next step, now we have to get end-to-end threaded measurement. No problem, right? We know we have 3/4 inch pipe, 45 on each end. You're taking out your pretty fitting allowance sheet, looking at 3/4 inch pipe, I'm going across to 45s, and I have a fitting allowance 1. So 1 plus 1, because I gotta take into account for each end, minus 1, because I have to minus off that 1/2 inch threaded on each end. So 1 plus 1 minus 1 gives me a total fitting allowance of 1, which they don't normally work out this easily, but, so we take our total fitting allowance, subtract it from our center to center. So 11 and 11/16 minus 1 gives us 10 and 11/16 end-to-end thread. Okay? You're on fire now, you're just gonna keep going. Now we need to do end-to-end copper. And remember, copper has no threading allowance, so we're looking up 3/4 inch copper on my sheet. I look over to the 45s and I see a 1/4 inch. So a 1/4 plus a 1/4, because I gotta take into account for each end, is 1/2 inch. We take our center to center measurement, subtract off the 1/2 inch, we get 11 and 3/16 end-to-end copper. Okay, so you'll be given the offset of the pipe size. You need to figure out the center to center, that's step one. The next thing, end to end threaded, and then end to end copper. So you got this, just go get it done.